Welcome to the Biz Gone Social podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social podcast, and I am so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, is I want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine. It's going to energize your business and help you stay social. Because after all, don't you want to be the business everyone's talking about? I know I do. And welcome, Quentin.
Thank you so much, Lorraine.
So tell me a little bit about your business, what you do, and who you serve.
Yeah, so we own an Airbnb arbitrage business, which is essentially we take properties that a landlord's renting out long-term. We sign a lease with them for 12 to 24 months, and then we get their permission to sublease it on Airbnb. And the clients we serve are travel nurses, AT&T, Verizon technicians, and corporate executives.
So I see you kind of niche down a little bit, so you know exactly who you're going to go after and who you're marketing to. I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
So, Airbnb, it's an interesting concept. I've stayed in them. I have had good experiences and I've had bad experiences. So it seems like you're able to make a living doing this. What is the upside of doing it and what is the downside of doing it?
Yeah, I'd say any business has ups and downs. The Airbnb in particular, it can be heavy management wise, but there's definitely a right way to do it where you don't have to be completely hands-on. I'd say most people kind of approach it in the more hands-on approach. And so they end up with lots of headaches, lots of maintenance calls, and they're the ones running the business instead of building a team out to do it for them. I was kind of a victim of that early on, up until about 2 years in the business. I had around 25 properties. I was working 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. and I had just kind of had it. I was almost ready to quit. And that's when somebody mentioned building a team to me and the right people to put in place so that I can kind of sit back and work on the business instead of in the business. And I remember that week vividly. I went from 0 employees to 3 or 4 employees within a week. And it took my workload from 80 to 100 hours a week down to about 10 hours a week, just training my team and putting them in the right places to take over my workload. So I would say, it's easy to run this business in the incorrect way and run it in a way that puts a lot of headaches on yourself. But there's definitely a better way. So you can see that as a pro or a con, depending on which way you're running it. Also, a great pro I want to point out is if you're running it with the arbitrage method, there's very little capital required to get started. In fact, there's a way that you can co-host or manage properties and you don't have to put any money in at all. And on some of those, we're profiting $2,000 a month on one house. So there's a ton of upside. There's very little capital involved to get going, and you don't need great credit. You don't need a ton of money. You can use credit cards or partner with a family member or friend to come up with the funds. And it really makes for a low barrier to entry with a extremely high upside.
What would you say is the average entry level as far as like what kind of capital you have to put down?
Yeah, so for a 1-bedroom, you can get in for as little as $6,000. I remember early on, I didn't have a ton of money, so I was renting out small places and finding deals on furniture on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or other sites like that. A lot of people give furniture away for free. So I was literally just running around, picking up any pieces I could to prepare for the next unit so that I could build it out in the cheapest, most affordable way possible. But also try to make it look as good as possible with things that I would find and deals I would pick up on other sites.
I love that. Do you help other people with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's actually what I spend the majority of my time on now. We have 38 units currently, but it only takes about an hour a day for me to manage my teams and help them to make us perform in a profitable way. So I started coaching others and teaching other people to get involved because it's a super lucrative way to get started in real estate and overall wealth building. Because like I was saying earlier, it takes very little capital to get into. There's a low barrier to entry. It's a very simple concept. And really, it's like riding a bike. Once you do the first one, you don't forget how to do it. And it's repeatable over and over again. So right now we're coaching around 100 clients. We meet every week, help them through their challenges that they're going through. And no matter what phase they're in, whether they're just starting out and know nothing about Airbnb, or if they are coming to us with 3 or 4 units and want to optimize those, we have something that can help them.
I love that. How did you get started in all this? I mean, what did you wake up one day and say, hey, I want to do Airbnb, or, what made you decide to do this?
Yeah, so a similar story. I woke up one day and I was about to lose my house. I was not making a ton of money. I just quit my job in construction, and I thought that I would start in the real estate industry as an agent, and I would immediately start making money, and everything was just going to go great, like it was in our dreams and fairy tales and everything else. And it didn't start like that at all. I didn't even make any money until about 60 to 90 days as an agent. I didn't have hardly any money saved up. So I started almost immediately struggling financially, and I was facing foreclosure. And just by coincidence, I met with a friend, and just a casual lunch meeting. And then we started getting towards what we were working on, any problems we're facing in our lives. And I told him about the house, that I might lose it because I wasn't making money at the time. And he said, why don't you just turn it into an Airbnb? I was like, well, I haven't thought about that. I don't have experience with Airbnb. Like, isn't that a hard business to do? He's like, no, it's actually super simple. I've got a property that I inherited. I didn't have a use for it, so I turned it into an Airbnb. It already had furniture in it. He said, so it worked out really well, and I'm making about $4,000 gross on the property. And I said, okay, well, if you can do it, then surely I can. You don't have any real estate background. You don't have any experience doing this. So why can't I? And I went home. I immediately got everything in the best condition I could, took pictures of the property, listed it on Airbnb, and moved back in with my parents. And the very first month, I profited $1,000. The second month, I profited $1,500. And then that's when the light bulb kind of turned on for me. I was like, this could be something with a lot of potential. And, of course, at the time, I only knew that you could buy properties. I didn't think anything about the arbitrage method and, the way that we're running business now. And so I started trying to find ways I could buy properties with zero money down, doing subject to financing, all these crazy terms that investors throw around online. And about 2 to 3 weeks in of me researching ways to find more properties, I found somebody talking about arbitrage. And it was like somebody had lit up my phone screen at the time. Like immediately I was just like, this is it. Like, this is going to work for me. I didn't even finish that video. I went straight to Zillow. I started finding properties similar to mine that was already working because I knew that model worked, and I was able to become profitable with that type of property. And within 1 week, I'd signed another lease. Now I had my second property. I maxed out every credit card I had. I borrowed money from anyone I could. And within 30 days later, I was getting bookings just like I had the first property, and the money started rolling in.
That's awesome. Now, do you have to have a real estate license to do this?
So in some states, you have to have a license to co-host, but you don't have to have a license to manage your own property.
Nice. Now you have a 5-year plan. What is that?
Yeah, the 5-year plan is to take the foundation that I've already built with arbitrage, the 38 units we have, the cash flow that we built up, and now start putting that into long-term assets. So multifamily, self-storage, we've looked at a few. So a very similar industry to the Airbnb. they're basically hotels that somebody's built out like Airbnb units with really nice furniture and great amenities, and they're beautiful, and they demand a higher premium rate because of this. So, that's kind of the long-term plan, building that long-term wealth. Now we have the cash flow and the great foundation. And that's really the way I teach people to start as well. There's in my opinion, three great ways to start in real estate: arbitrage with Airbnb, wholesaling, and flipping. None of them take a ton of capital. Flipping does take capital, but you can do hard money loans or partner with somebody. I've done several flips with no money down. But I really think once you build that cash flow foundation, now you can take that cash flow and put it into long-term assets and build that long-term wealth.
Yeah, I have a good friend who actually that's what they did when now they have Airbnb, but before they used to just like flip houses. They used to buy houses and flip them. And they figured that's what they always had to do because they both worked for themselves. They weren't going to have a 401k and this would be their retirement. And now they have a nice piece of property where they built these like little cottages and literally they Airbnb them. And it's actually right on their property. I don't know, a little creepy sometimes because sometimes they'll come home and they'll find somebody on their back porch grilling on their grill. But
that doesn't surprise me.
But now they do Airbnb, and she always has, it's a really nice spot, and she always has them filled, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, but I do have one more other question about Airbnb. Is there does every location work, or are you looking for touristy areas, or does it matter?
Yeah, so every location definitely doesn't work. You obviously can't just pitch up a tent in the middle of the desert with no traffic and become successful. But I'd say each state and even worldwide has a localized area where it's got heavy traffic from locations even outside of that state. So like the area that I'm in, we're not a touristy area. In fact, when I first started, I was telling people what I was doing in our local town of around 25,000 people. They're like, there's no way Airbnb is profitable in this town. Like, who comes to Kernersville is where I'm located. And I was like, yeah, actually a ton of people come here. There's attractions all back and forth through this area. It's a midpoint stop. We have a lot of wedding venues, and there's hospitals nearby where we have the Brenner Children's Hospital. So if somebody's visiting a family member, we can accommodate them and keep them comfortable during their stay. So it doesn't have to be a touristy area. You just need to find heavy traffic, figure out where the source is, and then find a location nearby at a decent rate that could accommodate the people coming to that area.
I love that. So I'm going to switch gears. This is the part of the show where we really get real here. What do you love the most about being in business for yourself?
I would say the freedom, for sure. I do work a lot of hours, worked a ton of hours early on to build up to this point. But I still have a ton of freedom with the Airbnb business. I have total time and location freedom. I can be at the beach right now doing this podcast. I can live anywhere in the world that I want. My team will still take care of things, and I can still manage them from anywhere in the world. So to me, that was my dream starting out, just not having to show up at 4:00 in the morning on a job site and having to dig holes or work physical labor. I wanted that ultimate freedom and being able to give my family experiences that they won't ever forget.
Yeah. So everybody talks about the glamour of being in business for themselves. All your friends think you're cool. Wow, that's really awesome. But we both know that there's some struggles and there's some challenges. What would you say in today's world? What is your biggest challenge?
I would say the biggest challenge is figuring out the next step. As a business owner and entrepreneur, there's 1,000 different opportunities thrown at you every week. And it's our job to figure out one, where the highest and best use of our time lies, whether it's finding more properties or coaching more clients, or maybe even quitting the business altogether to go to a new opportunity. There's 1,000 different things thrown at us. But it's the entrepreneurs that last the test of time that really inspire me, because they've been able to pick out the best use of their time and the best opportunities. And they're able to say no to so many different things that could have turned them in a whole different direction, and they wouldn't be where they are right now.
If there was one universal piece of advice that you could give to someone who maybe just be starting out in their business, or they're seasoned, or they're thinking about starting a business, what would that universal piece of advice be?
Yeah, my advice would be stop thinking and start doing it. That's it. People get so caught up in their mind that they never start. And I would say that's my biggest strength. I don't overanalyze anything. Once I start, seeing an opportunity that I think could possibly be bigger than what I'm currently doing now, I immediately take action on that. And then if it starts becoming fruitful in a way that I think is a long-term opportunity, then I start building a plan towards phasing out my current business or job or whatever I'm working on at the moment. And then I can get into that new opportunity and take advantage of that. But I've had so many friends and so many people that have come to me over the past 4 or 5 years, really, that I've been working on myself and my business, where they're interested in starting something themselves, or they're interested in getting in real estate, and they see what I'm doing and it's inspiring them to start, but they never start. They never do anything. So people that I spoke to 4 or 5 years ago, they're in the same exact position, working a job that they hate, coming home to a house that they hate, driving a car that they hate, doing all these things that they don't enjoy, just because they didn't take action. And what I would say to somebody that's on the fence about taking a risk or taking a new opportunity is, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that's going to happen is you fail and you come back and get another job just like you're working right now. And if that's the case, then you're telling me you're already living your worst nightmare, the worst possible outcome. And that's something you really need to think about.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. If someone resonated with you today, how would they get in touch with you? Or do you have something to offer? Or, I don't know, whatever you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach out to me on Instagram at Q Deals Homes. Currently under William West, even though I go by Quentin, I just got verified, so they've got to do the whole name change and run my legal name and stuff like that. So hopefully we can get that changed soon. But reach out to me directly. I'll be glad to share what we're doing at the time. I know this is probably going to release in December, but we've got some events going on before then. We'll have some going on after then. Reach out directly. I'll be happy to help, point you in the right direction. If you're interested in coaching, want to see what that looks like, be happy to jump on a call, give whatever free knowledge I can to you. And if you want something more, then I'll be happy to talk with you about what that looks like.
That's awesome. Again, I want to thank you for being on my show. And to everyone out there, the Biz Gone Social show is on every week. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.